Hey everybody. Came into my mind today. The big one. In all this process that we're doing, know thyself. All right. And what I mean by this, don't be one of those people that's just how I am and you got to deal with it. That is not what I mean. What I mean is know the parts of you that are real and the parts of you that are somebody else's projection onto you. You have to be very aware. And the only way to do that is by doing the work that I keep talking about here. You have to get very intimate with yourself. Um, and don't take that the wrong way. Don't go grab a handful of Kleenex or anything. You have to break yourself down. That's what I talk when I say look at your worldviews and the things that you believe about others. Really dissect that. That is, even though it took a while to kick in, I wasted 11 years. I went through this experience with a narcissist to teach me this. I got the lesson. Back when I had the first heart attack, I really lost my own identity. The things that I was used to doing to earn a living, I could no longer do. I was in a very bad place. I didn't know what to do next. And my ex, instead of being supportive and helping me to explore other avenues, they dumped like, oh, you just got to go back to that kind of work. You got to, get over it. You got to. Yeah, no, that was a severe life change. And that really showed me how little they thought of me or cared about my well-being. Because if somebody actually cared about you, they would say, hey, instead, you're really good at this, and it doesn't require that physical, capacity you're used to. Why don't you lean that way? And no, with her, it was the opposite. Because whenever I started to muse about those things, I tried to lean into my writing, stuff like this, where I talk to people, and it was always negativity. Like, oh no, and in hindsight being 2020, yeah, that was keep me small, keep me a good supply. I was there just for her use. When she needed validation, I had to be there to supply it. Even if I was a wreck on the floor in pieces, I needed validation myself. Nope, never got it. I always had to give, never got to receive. And that's, going forward, now that I've had this experience, I am going to sniff out pretty quick. If I'm in a relationship with someone, and I don't just mean romantic either, I mean friendship, I am looking for reciprocation, not manipulation. And unfortunately, the world we live in, another hard lesson that I found is the world that we live in creates narcissism. It generates it. I'm pretty convinced that that's the ultimate goal is to create a society full of narcissists, for the end game. And that's what I fight against. That's why I do what I do. People don't ask to be made that way. But you can't let your compassion, see what creates the big cause of creating a narcissist is some sort of trauma or abandonment in their childhood, something that makes them feel neglected, left behind, and they have to create. It's very similar to somebody with multiple personalities. They have to create a personality, and in this case, it's only the other fraction of them. It's not several, although it can come off that way. And they have to live in that fantasy to survive because their brain can't handle that trauma. And it's understandable as a survival mechanism when they're younger, but as they become an adult, they refuse to leave their comfort zone. They can tell that things are going wrong around them, but they cannot get the insight to realize that they are the problem. They're the ones that are causing all their issues. And the minute you try to, as an outsider, if you try to point that out to them, they don't see it as constructive criticism. They see it as betrayal. And the minute they realize that you are catching on, they will try to break you down. Anything that made me me, my ex would not approve of. Even if it wasn't openly, hey, you shouldn't do that anymore, it was always discouragement. Another great example is my woodworking. I was doing not great with that, but decent. And at first, they had to, she had to keep up this image. I'd say, okay, I'm going to help you. See, that was another thing. In the last few months, they got to build this narrative, and they put a lot of time into it. Here's something you need to understand about narcissists. They are extremely manipulative, but they are not extremely intelligent, because intelligence is the ability to adapt and to change, and they cannot do that. Not coming out and saying, somebody's really stupid, but again, it's a choice. They choose not to face the hard parts of themselves. They are too cowardly. That is one thing that I will absolutely say about my ex. She was an absolute coward to anything. The only time she had strength to say no was to me when I was in that devalue phase. Anything else would fly with her. But you got to be careful. You cannot give yourself up, because again, that's what triggered the depression, was me letting her swoop in and create an identity for me instead of me discovering my own after that heart attack. And I do have to take accountability, because I leaned on her way too much. And it's funny because, again, hindsight, looking back, that 1 month that she left me alone after the heart, when I was in really bad shape, that was the build up to where I, trigger warning. That's what led to where I did try to take my own life. I begged her to be there. She couldn't show up. And when I finally realized that she didn't care about me anymore and she wasn't going to show up, is when I said, hey, let's just call this what it is and call it done. That's when she swooped in with the love bombing to keep me on hand. Because again, when she needed that validation, she wanted to be able to reach out and get it. And, it took a really, that really says a lot about my character. The fact that I stayed with her this long and, I refused to see it. Until that one day when the mask lifted and we had that argument, and I saw the real her, and I started to research, what is, again, I say all the time, there's a lot of repetition with me. It irked me that every time somebody would break up, oh, my ex is a narcissist. No, they wanted accountability. And in my case, it's true. She really was a full-blown narcissist. Like I said, in the very end, when I say that there was no acknowledgement, I mean literal. She would be not 3 feet in front of me. I would say something directly to her face, and there wouldn't be the head tilt of listening. There wouldn't be an acknowledgement okay, I hear you, but I disagree with you. Or, hey, I hear you, I need to think about it. There was none of that. None of it. Just a blank stare and on with whatever conversation like I had never even spoken. And that was, these last couple months with it on and off. That's what led to my first walking away, and then I gave in and let her come back and love bomb me. I'm not falling for that bullshit ever again. Ever again. You done hit me with it enough. Again, I'm hard-headed. Took time. But now that it's in there, it's branded in there. It's not coming out. And that's how I operate. That's how I grow. This is how I heal. You know, once you learn the lesson, every once in a while, that's why I say it's an ongoing process. You got to go back and break down. And even though they're good belief systems that you have, you still have to reflect why they are in place. Because if not, you know, you'll let your guard down and then you'll have to repeat the lesson again. Yeah, after what I went through, I never want to go through anything like this ever again. Again, if I die alone, I'll die happy because I'm not trapped in that anymore. You know, again, the love bombing for the last few months, she would come up and spend money, but it was always on my vices. You know, the things that kept me from moving forward. If I asked her to contribute to something that would, you know, bring me higher, no, you have your family for that. You get enough from me. You know? So you got to be real careful. You got to pay attention to the person you're with. Are they helping you grow, or are they trying to keep you stuck? Because if they're trying to keep you stuck, run for the hills. I don't care if you end up homeless. Do it. It is still the best getaway. You know, going back to the whole woodworking thing, you know, she wouldn't, you know, she had to give that persona. Like, she took me on one good woodworking spree to get supplies. But then after that, it was, oh, we can't do that. Again, would still keep throwing money at the vices, but not at the growth. And again, that was my fault because accountability, I didn't give up my own vices to say, hey, since I don't need help with this anymore, could you start helping with this? And that's the other thing, that accountability. I can see where I went wrong because I have the ability, the self-awareness to reflect. She never had that. Even when I came out and put it straight, like, she didn't even have to go within herself. I laid it out for her and I said, hey, look, this is the patterns that you are showing me. And this is the pattern I need you to break. And I talked with her even deeper than I talked with here. Yeah, you think I'm open here? I was even more open with her. And again, it got me nowhere. And it was never going to. Because if it was anything outside of her, she did not give two shits. You know? I try to live life, you know, with as few regrets as possible. You know I made my fair share of big mistakes. And I don't regret any love that I put out in the world because that's what I'm meant to do. That's what makes me happy. But I do regret all the time that I wasted sacrificing myself to try and help one person that didn't even have the self-respect to want to change, to want to heal, to want to be better. And again, it's an inside job. You cannot save somebody who does not want to be saved. I don't care how good you are. That's just one of those tough lessons that's embedded. It's just not going to work. And you need to make a choice. Do you want to live, like genuinely live and experience life and grow? Because if so, you cannot have a narcissist anywhere around you. Um, they'll suck the life right out of you. And I do mean that, like literally. Um, they will break you down um, until there's nothing left except for the programming that they put into you. Like earlier in this series, I was talking about the negative self-speak, and I noticed, my last video, twice I said my dumbass self. That's that programming coming through. That's something the narcissist teaches you to do. So when they're not present to talk you down when you're starting to rise above, you'll do it for yourself. And you have to, like, I'm going to have to do a whole, like, journaling process all over it. Like, remember how I said, in the beginning, this is where you start, and I've gotten to a point where I don't need to do all that anymore. Yet now I got to go back to my roots, because I have to get rid of all this programming that she put in me in the last 11 years. And it really sucks, because I was supposed to be hitting the ground running when I came out of the depression. And instead I'm going to be rebuilding. And it is what it is. It's just unfortunate. I know I'm good at it. I know I'll be faster at it this time. It's just, I feel like I wasted enough time, and now I have to waste more to undo the damage that was done. But still moving forward, I'm going to still keep going. I'm going to keep, pouring this love out into the world, because I know somebody out there. I mean, I know I'm not getting a lot of views right now, and again, that's not what it's about. I know that when the right time comes, the right people will find my messages, and it will help them. I firmly believe that. There's not a doubt in my mind. That's why I do what I do. That's why I keep showing up. That's why I keep putting myself out here. Again, I don't do it for the attention. I do it for the intention. If the lessons that I've learned can help somebody else from going through the pain that I've been through, I am all for it. That's why I do what I do. So, again, I'm getting close to way over time. I try to keep these under 15, and we're getting ready to hit 18. So, I'll continue to work on that. Just, again, do the work. It is in your best interest. It will change your life. It really will. Have the faith. Believe in yourself. Believe in God. Let God heal you. Let God work through you. You have to surrender. Get in the Word. Study the right way to live. Study the right way to treat people. To interact with the world. I'm still going. And as upset as I am and unhappy in the moment, I'm still not depressed like I was. And I'm really glad that I have that licked. But again, I have to have that awareness, because now I know I'm in a vulnerable state. I could easily slip back into that. And I don't want to. So I'm fighting it with everything I got. So please, keep up the good fight. Keep doing the good work. Take care of yourself. Try and take care of each other. And I'll catch you in the next one.